And I actually wanted people to know more about you, but then I read a little bit about your show, and I realized that your show is you.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I like talking about it because I'm 60 and it took me so many years to get around to telling this story. After years of doing stand up and doing parts of my story that I wanted to tell in stand up, only to have people later go, "Oh, that didn't really happen, right? That didn't really happen." And realizing that stand up is great, but people never leave the comedy club and say, "Wow, I relate to that childhood. My childhood was like that." Where theater, dramatic, dark theater, people, they cry.
Yeah.
They come up and hug you afterwards. Stand-up
Oh.
comedy clubs. I never had anybody hug me unless it's a drunk girl after a show, and they were like, "Oh my God, you were so funny."
But it must be like real fun, writing a show with so many elements in it, not just stand up, right? It's not just stand up, right? It has some. Can we expect some sketch comedy also in that, or it's just a one man play?
No, it's a one-man play. It's not a sketch comedy. It's different than my stand-up comedy. It's not even a stand-up type of a one-man show. There's dark humor in it, very dark, and it's great sometimes when I'm on stage and I hear someone relating to something I said, and they're like, you know, and I want to stop and go, "Oh, you get it," because it's about my childhood. It's about dysfunction and childhood trauma. So it's
So,
different than stand-up.
so it's like, can we expect some deadpan dark comedy, or it's like hard hitting dark comedy?
I'm deadpan. Is that what you said?
Okay.
I couldn't hear what you said. Did you say deadpan?
Yeah, can we expect some deadpan dark comedy, or it's like very hard hitting?
Um, I don't know exactly what you mean by deadpan. Um, it's just dark comedy. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by deadpan though.
I meant that like when you like make a punchline which is dark, which people don't see. So do you do it with a poker face, or do you do it with a lot of
Oh,
expressions? So
oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Some things. That's why I'm saying. That's why I did say the good point. When some people sometimes like laugh individually at certain things, they're usually laughing when I'm being more serious. But they laugh because we relate to things sometimes that are tragic. At least I did. I always did. Laugh at things that were tragic or dark. Not funny like I thought it was a good thing. Like I never laugh at people falling and getting hurt, but just when someone would say something dark. I don't know if you've ever been, probably not, but in AA meetings, a lot of times people will share these horrible things they've been through, and everyone in the room just about is laughing out of
oh,
recognition, not laughing because they think it's okay. Years ago, I was in an acting class, and a partner that I was working with kept saying, "Oh, I don't like that you're laughing. I don't like you keep laughing." And the teacher stopped and she said, "Look at his face. He's not laughing because he thinks it's funny." And then she looked at me, and I didn't know what I was doing. And she just looked at me and she went, "Oh." So they laugh out of the darkness. Um, but there is times when it's light, and I am saying it with a big smile because I want it to be funny. Like my mother, how she would um, save money by going through the sales circulars and looking for the cheapest item, and then bringing it home, and then continue for weeks after that looking for a lower price. But then she wouldn't do anything about it. She would just complain, you know. And then I go on, her complaining, and I always say that with a big smile. But when I say, "Daddy, when I'm 18, if you're not dead, I'm going to kill you," that I say with a serious face.
I think a show like okay, let me like deviate from the show a little bit, and let's talk about you.
Sure.
And I don't know what I should cover first, you or dark comedy, because I love dark comedy, but I like want to get into more of you. So when did you start stand up comedy? How long it has been?
Unfortunately, a very long time. I started a little bit when I stopped drinking, which was 1990. So I was 24 years old. It was something I wanted to do for a long time, and I did it for quite a while, but I didn't have a great work ethic.
Ah,
And I did move up. um, through doing comedy, but it took a long time, a long time. I remember I was on a show in Connecticut, and I showed up at the venue, and this other comic shows up, and he says to me, "Who's emceeing?" And I said, "I am." He said, "Come on, stop jerking around. Who's emceeing?" Because it was on the road, so you have three people. They MC the feature, they do 30 minutes, and the headliner does 45
Yeah.
minutes. And I said, "I am." He said, "Come on, Tommy, stop acting like a jerk." And I said, "No, I'm emceeing," because this guy was the feature. He
Okay.
thought I was headlining. And I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Dude, you've been doing this." And at the time, he's like, "You were doing this 9 years already. I've only been doing it 6, and I'm featuring." And like that was a good wake up call because I was lazy. I was like, "Oh, as long as I'm getting work, I don't care if I MC." I didn't know how to follow through with anything, and that's part of that is evident in my show. I had 175 different jobs by the time I was 40.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I just didn't know. And comedy was great because back then, I was just telling this to a friend the other day. Nobody knew if you were working, so back then you can get a lot of work on the road. And I would book like 4 months in advance, and then after that, every weekend or sometimes a Wednesday to a Sunday, and I had part-time jobs. And then after that, I would just be like, "Oh, I can't take anymore. I'm not. I'm taking a break. I'm taking a break from comedy." And then I would just do nothing for like 2 or 3 months. And when you saw people, you would just say, "Oh, I was just in Ohio," or "Oh, I did that place out in Michigan or whatever," and nobody knew. So it was easy to kind of for me to hide and not do anything.
So you're not doing regular open mics even early in your career, I assume, because you had a
Oh,
lot
I
of
did.
jobs going.
I Yeah, I did do open mics. I did a lot of open mics, and I did get on stage a lot in the first few years, but I would still come and go. You know.
But
Um,
what kept you going? What kept you going even after juggling with so many jobs? What kept you going in stand-up comedy?
um, well, it's something I always wanted to do. I always admired Richard Pryor and George Carlin, and I didn't
Ah,
understand why, believe it or not, until a couple of years ago. And it was because when I was a kid, they were the first people in my orbit that I heard actually telling the truth. People on TV didn't tell the truth. My parents didn't tell the truth. My friends' parents, nobody told the truth. Other kids did, but not any adults. And they were the first people I heard really being truthful about things. And I wasn't really attracted to the laughs. I was attracted to just, one or two little things that they said that were honest and truthful. So I wanted to do that. Um, yeah.
so did someone ever tell you that you look a little like George Carlin?
Yeah, I know people say that. And when I go to Scotland, I get Billy Connolly when my hair's down.
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to remember that why is this person looking so familiar? And then I realized you resemble my favorite comic. George Carlin is my favorite of all time.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was mine too. I used to do. In fact, there was a couple of years ago. It never panned out. There were these two men. They were producers. They produced these like what do they call them? Like Hollywood legends shows for Vegas,
Ah, I
and they were
remember.
doing one with. Yeah, they were doing one with like they show. They have a guy like a Buddy Holly, and they were doing a comedy oriented one. So I auditioned for the Carlin, and they liked it, but I would have had to take off my teaching job every other month, and I can't, take off my teaching job. So I did like I like to take a look at the news. First, the headlines: 21 killed in the 21 gun salute.
See, that's
Um,
perfect.
yeah, that's my favorite Carlin. I mean, that was the first comedian I heard. My brother had his album Class Clown, and sadly enough, I never met him. Saw his show twice, but I never met him, unfortunately.
I think my favorite is Jamming in New York. Class Clown is still on DVD. So for me, as a 31-year-old, relating to like listening to DVD is still a little bit tough. But all his specials after I guess 1979, after it did again, they were all out on HBO. So I like.
Yeah.
I so let's talk a little bit about your show. So you're bringing your show A Cat in a Box to Fringe,
Yes.
and you have described this show about an autobiographical show where you talk about alcoholism, dysfunction, and dysfunctional family, and how Hurricane Sandy was a big turning point in your life. Am I
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, when did you first decided to write this show, and do you remember the first material that came into your head, and you realized, okay, this could be a full hour?
Well, I've wanted to tell the story of my dysfunctional family my entire life. In fact, when I started doing comedy way back then, I would try to, I would still do um, bits about my alcoholic parents. Um, I would talk about my father coming home drunk and, falling, and my mother would tell us, "Oh, he's tired. He was working." And I would think like, "Wow, he worked so hard, he can't even stand up." I would do stuff like that. And when I moved into New York in '98, I started going to performance art open mics, and I was reading monologues. Anyway, I just never, again, my ability to follow through with anything. Um, I just wasn't disciplined. So I wanted to tell this story my whole life. Then I moved out of New York, bought a little house, and Sandy happened. And I was also in the midst of getting my degrees in early childhood education to become a teacher. And I was reading a lot about childhood trauma. And no one in my family called, even though they lived 30 minutes away. They didn't call, they didn't come to help. And everybody on my block every morning had friends and family bringing breakfast and coffee and in and out of the house. And every day, there was another person coming to visit another neighbor of mine. My one neighbor next door who never talked to his father because his father hated him because he was gay. One day he said to me, "Hey, Tom, I'm going to stay at my father's house. My father came and got me." I was like, nobody's coming to get me. And that's when I realized my whole life I have been living this lie that we were a family, and I need to tell this story before I die.
Man, that's, but it must be a little difficult, when you're writing a joke about so many traumas, and your premise is always traumatic, and then you have to think of a funny punchline. So,
No, I'm
how much
laughing. I know.
effort goes into writing that setup? Okay, I know about the punchline and the premise. The
Yeah.
premise is something tragic, and the punchline is something really funny, but the setup must have been really difficult to write.
Yes. I don't know about difficult, but difficult to do. And my best example is years ago, I was doing a show in New York, and I had just gotten a new camera, and I was recording it, and I was doing so well. And then I was transitioning into the material about my family, and I lost the audience, and I couldn't understand why. And I went home and I watched the video, and I saw me, this is my face in the video, doing the other material about, just like, hey, living in New York, and, doesn't it suck, and all this stuff. And then when I transitioned to the material about my family, my face went like this. And that's why I lost the audience. My whole mood changed. So it was difficult for me to say it with a smile, for a long time. It was hard to say it with a smile, but I had to keep doing it and keep trying it. And many times I would get off, and sometimes club owners would be like, "Wow, that's a pretty dark ending. Your father dying of cirrhosis." Um, but I enjoyed that too. I enjoyed to like kick the audience, in the, I don't want to say
Losing the bit.
kick them in the nuts every once in a while.
So, what change did you do in the show? Like, did you like make the transition a little bit softer, or
Well, I've grown as a person, and I've grown as a performer, um, and I just have to do what I have to do. So I need to, um, I needed to be aware of what and I also have a director who is a comedian for many years and a writer, Jim Mandrinos, many, many
yeah?
years. Um, and I knew I had to do what I had to do. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. No more of this. Like back then, I don't know. I think I knew I should have been smiling about it, but I just couldn't. Because also, I wasn't at peace with any of it. Now I am. Now I've grown so much. So I'm at peace with it. Yeah, my father was a crazy drunk, Um, where back then, it would just make me tight and angry. And maybe I could say I probably shouldn't have been doing the material at that time until I was ready to emotionally able to handle it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question which might be really personal,
Sure.
and so the question is that when you perform your act. You must have been doing it for a while now, like refining it. So when you do each and every jokes and when you discuss the like the real incident on which the joke is based, do you somehow relive all those incidents in your head while performing?
Oh, yeah, unfortunately.
That's not
Yeah.
fortunately, that's unfortunately.
No, no, I did say unfortunately. Sorry, I mumble
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Unfortunately.
But
Yeah, yeah, I do. And sometimes I'll be on stage, like I'm smiling now because I'll be on stage and something will hit me and I'll be laughing and the audience will be laughing and I'll say, these are laughter, tears of laughter, and some people in the audience understand that and some of them don't, and that's fine. Or I'll say, folks, I'm laughing about it now, but on my way home, I'm going to be crying. Oh, my childhood sucked, but the audience was good, but my childhood sucked.
but man, that's see, I love dark comedy because I think that if you take a tragic incident and put something funny in it, you remember that
Yeah,
sadness with a smile on your face. So I think it's a win-win. If you can turn your traumas into something that will make people laugh, you're not
yeah,
just sharing your content, you're like sharing happiness with it.
yeah. I agree, and I think you're showing them another side to it also. But my one problem, and maybe I'm wrong, but I say this a lot lately. I just feel like with stand up, like I said this before, um, people don't always leave the club and on their way home contemplate what they heard. They kind of laugh at it and they remember it, but it doesn't really get through to them like theater does. Even if it's stand up in theater, then that's different. But in a comedy club, for some reason, it's all just fun and games. And like, I even say that, yeah, these are just jokes, folks. I love my parents. I love them. I love them dead. But that's just a joke. No, I'm joking. But in the theater, I feel like they leave there with a little bit more to take home with them.
But I think that since comedy club is a very intimate setting, I think people's mood are very unpredictable when it's a comedy club. In theater, if someone is coming to a theater, you know they are going to be like concentrated at you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your show a little bit and about Hurricane Sandy. So it is a
Okay.
very major point in your show, right? I guess, as I've heard, that Hurricane Sandy is a very major point in your show.
Yeah. It
So
was a
when you started writing about the show, how did you like figure that material about Hurricane Sandy? Like, okay, this was the turning point, and this is how this point is kind of a deal breaker from for my show. I just want to
um.
write how you wrote that part about just
Yeah.
what happened after Hurricane Sandy and what happened during it.
Well, Hurricane Sandy happened during 2012, and I went to my oldest sister's house, and I came here the next day with my niece, and they knew my house was ruined. And I went back to her house, and I told her, and they all just kind of, oh, like they're making jokes about it. So I just took my stuff, and I came back to my house, and I stayed here, um, waiting for help to arrive. And nobody showed up. No one in my family showed up. And like I said before, that's when I realized that my whole life I've been pretending. We were never really a family. We were just kind of roommates. We were never taught how to be a family. And it's not any of our faults. It's the way our parents grew up, and they can only give you what they got. So I've always wanted to tell my story. And I was in the middle of finishing my master's degree. No, um, in 2021, 2021, I was finishing my master's degree. And that's when I didn't start working on the show until about the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
So in the beginning of 2021, I was working on my master's degree and I was sitting in my basement. I was writing another paper on childhood trauma, and I started to cry. And I said, how many more stories? I mean, how many more studies do you need to read to realize that you were never a family? And I always went back to Hurricane Sandy. And I stopped talking to them after 2012 because they never came to help me or anything. They never called. There was one email that was forwarded around the family, and it never even mentioned Tommy's house was ruined. It just said, we're okay here. We're okay here. No one said, Tommy's house is ruined. Um, and I always thought of that. And here's the other thing: Hurricane Sandy. I was sitting on my front steps, and I was watching all my neighbors with all their friends, and I just said, I'm completely alone. And I felt like the world was spinning. And for a few weeks, it was kind of scary because that's when I realized we were never that family. And it was kind of scary. And then I kind of accepted, hey, you know what? There's lots of people who grow up as um, with an only child. So I'm considering myself an only child. So when it came time for me to put the story together, I had to think like what was the moment that really changed my life as an adult, and that was Hurricane Sandy. Because what I did is after Hurricane Sandy, I realized we were never a family, so I started on this trek to heal my childhood, and it took a while. So that was the turning point in my life. Hurricane Sandy was actually a turning point, and I really do think sometimes if that never happened, would I have finally admitted that there was a problem here? Because we were never a family. I was pretending we were, and I was pretending that I was okay, and I wasn't. I would pretend about everything. I would pretend. I would hear people talk about like, oh, I don't talk to my siblings at, at meetings, 12-step meetings. I would hear people say, I don't talk to my siblings anymore. And in my mind, I'd be like, I feel so sorry for that person because I talk to mine. And then later I'd say, no, you don't. You don't get along. You don't know them. They don't know you. You're not friends. So I was in denial about everything. So I hope that was a good answer.
Yeah, that is a good answer. And the thing is that,
Okay.
sorry to
Long.
go off
Sorry.
the track a little bit, but I would like
No.
to share something with you.
Sure.
So, uh, in 2021, my father passed away, and
Oh,
I saw something similar. Like there was no one and everything. Okay. But what I realized then that humor is going to be the best defense mechanism.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what happened? It was like just 2 days later after that happened, there was a funeral and everything. We have different customs for the funeral. So, one of my friend called me and said that, brother, I won't be able to come to the funeral because my father isn't allowing it.
Oh,
Okay, so I just no, he's a very nice guy. I just said him that
okay.
he said that I am not going to come to the funeral because my father won't allow me, and I said it's fine, but I can't relate to it anymore.
Yeah.
So
Why?
that was the moment everyone laughed in my family. That like 50% of the people were like, how is he still making jokes about his father? His father
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
died a couple of days ago, and I'm like, this is going to be my defense mechanism from now on.
Yeah.
So
But
what?
why wouldn't his? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, what did you say?
Why wouldn't his father allow it? If you don't mind me asking.
It was very far, and it was the quarantine time. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, but as I said that, okay, I can't relate to it because obviously my father is over. So
Yeah.
he started laughing. We both started laughing, and I realized, okay, that's that time I realized that, okay, dark comedy is not about making fun on dark topics. It's about making something which is very terrible. Remember something which is very terrible in a way that makes you smile. So
Yeah.
for me, that's dark comedy. It's not about offending someone. It's just like making people smile in dark times. That's it.
Yes. 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 I like that. I like that. Making light out of tragedy. I do that a
Uh,
lot. I do that a lot in the classroom too with the students, and sometimes people look at me like other people who may be helping out for the day or something, and I say, "What are we gonna do? We're gonna get upset over it? Let's make a joke about it." You know?
So I now want to take you back to 1990s when you first started comedy. Do you remember the
Okay.
first time when you killed on stage? When you got your first
Uh,
laugh?
I don't know the first time I killed, but the first time I did really well was at a place called Rascals Comedy Club. It was a very popular club in New Jersey. They had two of them,
Okay.
and me and my friends were doing the open mic at the one down the shore, and they put a showcase night for us together. I just worded that really weird. They put a showcase night together for us. And I did 5 minutes and I did really well. And even the manager was like, wow, that was like a really good set. And I knew what to do. I always knew, I always kind of knew, but I didn't always do the work. I wouldn't do the work all the time. I would show up at shows completely unprepared. I was one of those guys that, had a gig that weekend, maybe the whole weekend, and I wouldn't even look at my material. I wouldn't even think about it until I was driving there on Friday night, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hours before the show, going, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, that's right, I got to do this joke, and then I would just go up and I would do okay. So that was the first time I did really well. And incidentally, after Hurricane Sandy, I was so mad at the world. I had a Foot Locker with everything. That tape was in there, and I had everything I had done. And I don't know if you know about hurricanes. Well, yeah, you probably
Yeah,
do.
I obviously know about that.
People gut their houses and they put everything on the front lawn. And you take everything out, and then a big crane comes by and it picks it up and it puts it in a dump truck and it takes it away. I dragged my Foot Locker out and I put it on the pile and I threw everything out. I don't know why I did that. It was a very self-destructive thing. So from my early years of comedy, all I have left were 3 shows from 2006 that were in my video camera in my attic from this place in Michigan. That's all I have left. I don't have anything else. And I used to do years ago, many years ago, I wasn't a regular, but at the Comedy Cellar, they had something called the Late Night Comedy Jam. And when I first started comedy, me and a lot of other people did the Late Night Comedy Jam. A lot of people who moved on. And again, I would go to the Late Night Comedy Jam, and you would have to call up, you would have to get on the avails list, and you would get spots. And then I would do my spots for several weeks, then I'd disappear. And then I would call up, and I wouldn't get any spots. And then I would call Esty, the booker, and I would have some kind of sob story, and she'd put me back on, and then I would do that. But anyway, I had, videos of that also, which is disappointing. It's all, it's just like, it would be great to see all of that stuff now,
Uh,
but it's all gone.
so when you did a cat in a box for the first time, the full show, have you done this show before? Like you have been doing this for a while,
Yes, I've
or
been workshopping it. Yeah, I've been workshopping it. We started the first cold reading we did about 2.5 years ago.
oh, 2.5? So you are actually writing this show since the lockdown. You started writing it on the lockdown, and you're working on it for 2.5 years
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I started working on it. I started working on the lockdown, but I wasn't telling anybody about it. And I would read monologues at Zoom open mics, and I wouldn't change them, but I would just read them and get it out, because it was still uncomfortable for me to talk about this. Still, even doing the show, some scenes when I get up to the scene about my father, I'm always like, all right, Tommy, just do this. It's going to be over in a few minutes, and then you can go on to the next one, and you can have fun doing the next scene. Um, so I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry.
2.5 hours,
Yeah.
2.5 years ago, you started doing
Oh
the show,
yeah,
and it was still very hard.
yeah. In 2.5 years, I started working with a director and a
Jim, right?
coach. Yeah, Jim Mandrinos. Yeah, yeah. And Jim's great. And the first thing I told him is like, I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. And I knew him for years. And I don't want anybody to write anything for me. He said, no, it's your show. He said, I'm just here to guide you. And he's been amazing at that. And he's given me things to think about. There was sometimes I would add material and he would say, I like it on its own, maybe for a different show, but it doesn't drive your show forward. If you want to keep it, it's up to you. But I want you to consider and read it over this week and think about it and think about it and think. And he was always, most of the time, right about that kind of stuff.
Man, that's great. And another thing is that you are not just a stand-up artist, you're an actor also. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
how much physicality can we expect in the show?
Um, I'm performing. It's not like a stand up. It's not like a stand up. It's me. I don't know if you saw the trailer, but that's pretty much what you could see if you see the trailer. I'm. People tell me this. I sound like Trump. People tell me this. I don't know if it's true. But it's very engaging. I'm very engaging. That's what people tell me. It's hard for me to toot my own horn because when I was little, my mother would say, "Oh, don't get so smart. Big deal. You're engaging. Everybody's engaging. I can be engaging. Look, I'm engaging now." That's the kind of stuff my mother. Yeah, that's what she would do. This is a picture of my mother that I drew. Come on. I drew this a few years ago, and I showed it to my sister, and she's like, "That's mommy." And I said, "Yep, that was her smile. She looked like a grouper. She didn't know how to
So that's the
smile, my
smile,
mother,
the
unfortunately."
frown smile.
Yeah, yeah. She never really smiled much, but that's a picture of her. Um, so
Wait,
I'm all
so
over the place.
are the
I'm very
paintings
physical.
beside yours?
I'm sorry.
Are the paintings that are on the wall, they are made
Oh,
by
the other
you?
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, some of them are paintings, some of them are photographs. This thing was a
Ah, Did it break? It's okay. Did it break? I'm just
Hold
worried.
on 1 second. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's a 99-cent store frame.
I hope it didn't break.
This thing is actually a Phillips head screw that I enlarged. This is an amusement park.
Ah.
I got to put my headphones back on. Yeah, these are, you know what? These are 99-cent store frames, literally. I have a box of real frames that I bought from a thrift store, but I just, like, again, like, I only do what I feel like I need to do when I need to do it. And nobody comes in here very rarely. So it's just me. So I just put them up there.
But I love art. I think art is stand-up comedy, but in a very disguised form. Like when you do stand-up comedy, people can actually see what you're trying to
I
say.
like that.
In art, people have to interpret and everything. So
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Like this thing, like, I mean, I love it. As soon as I finish the Ferris wheel, I'm like, that distorted Ferris wheel, you know. Um, it's not a perfectly round, perfect
it is
Ferris wheel. Like, this is a dysfunctional childhood Ferris wheel.
exactly. I can see that with the colors only. Like normally people draw
Yes,
Ferris
you're
wheel.
right. And the colors. It's a crappy day.
Yeah.
It's not a sunny day on Coney Island. It's just a crappy, dark day. Yeah, you're right.
So actually, we have covered most of the question. I actually normally ask people who are their idols, but you already covered Richard Pryor and George Carlin.
Oh,
So now we are going to talk about the name of the show, A Cat in a Box, which you have
yes,
already said that you always felt like being a cat in a box was like,
yes.
and I actually interpreted it a little bit more that you're more like a Schrodinger's cat,
I
that
know.
people are not checking up on you. So you think that maybe people don't know where I am right now.
I like that. And I didn't learn about Schrodinger's cat until about 3 years ago. I heard something on public radio and I pulled over to the side of the road and I sent a message to Jim. And he's like, all right, well, if you think you need to add that in. And I added it in the show, talking about that, making a little comparison to Schrodinger's cat. But then I took it out because I think Schrodinger's cat is different, but I literally used to tell people that I felt as a child that my best description was that I was raised like a cat in a box, and that you put a little cat in a box and you feed it and the cat lives in there, and then when the cat gets older, you take it out and the cat acts crazy. And everyone says, "What's wrong with that cat? That cat has a problem." And then you say, "Oh, the cat was raised in a box." And people go, "Oh, that's so sad. The poor cat. Let's try to love the cat." But as an adult, when you say, "I was brought up in a dysfunctional family," maybe not now, but for quite a few years, people would say, "Oh, get over it. Oh, your mother didn't love you too bad. You know, you had a roof over your head. Big deal. Your parents loved you. You had a roof. Don't worry about it." So that was the comparison, and that's why I used that, because I said that for so long, and it used to bother me when people would say that.
So what is your favorite part about the show?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Take your time. Just there must
It
be
it,
one
it
particular part that's
varies.
your favorite.
It varies sometimes. Sometimes, uh, I know it's kind of grim, but sometimes my favorite part, I would say most of the time, my favorite part is when I talk about my father dying, because I didn't really care for him. And my life really did change. Even now, just thinking about it like right now, it was just a relief because I was the youngest. And I got the brunt of it because, as my brother had told me a few years ago, that he said he had memories of my father that were good until he was about 12. So I was 6 when my brother was 12. So my my only memories of just this big, I don't know if I can curse on here, this jerk in my house ruining my childhood. So when he died, I don't know if you saw the show. I don't want to give too much away. It doesn't matter if I give it away. I don't
It's
know if
fine.
people are who's going to come. I was in the kitchen with my mother when we got the phone call, and I literally turned to the wall and smiled. And every time I would go into the kitchen, I would caress that spot on the wall because I would hold it and put my hand on it, the spot that I smiled at or about, because I was happy because my life was going to change. It was such For years, I prayed for him not to even come home anymore. So yeah, that's my best part when I talk about that. Even though I do it and when I perform it, I let myself get washed with the emotion of the sadness of him dying because of all of the stuff I talked about before. Um, and it is a show, so I have to do that. And then when I go into the smiling, because I don't want to be talking about him like, and we got a phone call and it was the hospital, because that wouldn't be fun for the audience either. So
Man, I think that people would get a lot of different kind of emotions from your show. It's
they
not
do,
going to
yeah.
be just smile or sorrow. It's going to be a lot of shock values maybe. And so
Yeah,
you would get to play with a lot of emotions. And I think I know that it would be a wonderful show, because all the
yeah,
emotion that I can see from coming out from you, it's like enough engaging. As your mother said, anyone can be engaging, but it's not true. You are
yeah.
engaging, and I
Oh,
actually
thank you.
sensed it in the interview also. So is there anything you want to tell to everyone who's coming to see you at Fringe?
Well, if you do come see me, please come and say hello afterwards. I really like that, especially if you're coming to the show because you relate to it. And afterwards, you will probably have more feelings. And I always love for people to at least say hello and share. And I feel like when I see shows like that, I need to go up to the person and say, I could almost cry thinking about it right now, but I'm not going to. I need to go to the person and say, I felt the same way. I saw Rosie O'Donnell's show last year, and I saw Liz Coyne's show during the day. I know Liz, and I saw hers, and that got me welled up. And then I thought, well, all right, I'll get over this, and I'm going to go see Rosie's show, and Rosie's going to make me laugh. Rosie's show was the opposite of mine. It was all about love, and hers wasn't a stand-up type of show either. Um, and it was all about love. And I just was in tears. And I waited outside, and I couldn't find her. And I'm so glad. But I wanted to just tell her. But I have some acquaintances that they told her for me, so that made me feel a little bit better. So that's what I want to say. If you are coming to the show, please come and tell me. Um, how you related to it. If you need to, I'm there after the show to tell me or
So
email me or something.
thank you so much, Tom, for being a part of this. And people should watch your show, should go to Edinburgh Fringe and should watch your show. And when are you flying to Scotland then?
I am leaving Tuesday. I didn't know people go so early. People are there now. I didn't know. And
Yeah,
I'm sitting here like I don't have the money to change my flight, but I wish I did. I really wish I did. So
it's
I have to wait
fine.
till Tuesday night.
It's fine. Fringe is a festival. You're going to meet so many people out there, and it's going to be
Yes,
lovely.
that's going to be overwhelming. I'll be hiding in the hills,
And
trying
I
to
hope
find
you
some
like this
quiet.
interview, and it's not, I hope you
Yes,
like this interaction.
yes, I did. Are you coming to? Are you going to the Fringe?
No, actually, I actually planned my Edinburgh trip in September, so I actually forgot totally about Fringe.
Oh
So I
wow,
wanted to visit, but I planned it just a month later.
yeah,
And I really hope you like this interview, because
I
I
did.
rarely try to make it a promotional interviews, but because I want my audience to know about the comedian more than just the show.
I like that. I like that. I think that's very important to find out who shaped the comic. How did that person get that we see in front of us? Where did they come from? I love that.
Exactly. And thank you so much. I hope you loved it, and all the best for
I did.
Fringe.
You have a great day. I have to go buy a new frame.
Yeah, okay. Okay, bye bye. Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Bye. Thank you.